Hey guys, it's Katie and welcome to another video, and in today's video I am bringing you my updated list on books that I would like to reread. There are two separate piles for this. One is for some books that I need to reread, whether that's because I haven't read them in a while and I need to decide if I want to keep the physical book, and if not then I can just get like the Kindle book and pass these books on because of space and stuff. And there's obviously some favourites of mine, books that I've really loved that I haven't read in a while that I would just love to reread again just to get all the feels again. So without further ado, I'm going to start with the pile of books that I would like to sort of give a second chance to before deciding. So the first book that is on this pile is Shiver by Maggie Stiefvater. This book I haven't read for a few years now, and honestly I can't remember any of the details that happened in this book. I just remember that there's this female and then there's this boy that is a wolf that she just suddenly finds outside, and that's literally all I remember. But I have the other books in the series, so I would like to decide by rereading this again and seeing how I feel about it. This is one of those books that sort of gets mixed reviews, so it's been a fair few years now, so I would like to go put my head in it and see if, you know, my opinion has changed since I last read it, because I think if I remember at the time I wasn't quite sure of what I thought about this book because it was quite an odd one. So I would like to reread this and give it a second chance, and if not then I'll just get it on the Kindle and I won't worry about the physical book. I also need to reread Angel by L.A. Weatherly to decide whether I need to keep this book or get rid of it. The next book that is on this list is Tempest by Julie Cross. Now this book has been a while since I've read this, and I think I remember at the time I actually quite enjoyed this book. So I just want to give it a reread and give it a second thought as to whether I want to keep this physical book or whether I can just move on and get the Kindle. The next book choice is Fated by Alison Noel, and this is the first book that is in this series. I read this when I pretty much started BookTube, or literally just before, so that has been a fair few years, but I really couldn't get into this book until like halfway, so I was quite disappointed with this. I think I gave it 3 out of 5 Kit Kats at the time, so yes, quite a sort of okay-ish rating. So I just want to reread it now that I kind of like, when I finally got into it and understood it, I want to give it a chance and just see, because I absolutely love like However book series, so I don't really want to be disappointed in this, so I just want to give it another chance and hopefully I do like it. The next book is The Archive by Victoria Schwab. This book, it took me a while to get into, and I think that's just because of the writing style, and I read this a few years ago again, and so I just want to give it a reread to see if I think about it any differently, and if I'm not too fast, like I say, I can just get the Kindle copy of this. But I do have the sequel, so it would be good for me to reread this and then dive into the sequel to see if I like the sequel more. So yeah, hopefully I do enjoy this a bit more the second time. The next book that I would like to give a reread is Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief. This is the first book that's in the Percy Jackson series. I got put off by this when I watched the movie first, so that probably is my fault actually. I watched the movie and then I read the book, and then I was just, I don't know, I just was reading the book and I was like, oh, I just honestly wasn't feeling it and I wasn't actually enjoying it. So now it's been a few years later, I would like to give this a reread because this series just gains so much love, and there's spin-off series in this as well. And you know, Greek mythology, I really did enjoy that when I was learning about it in school. So I'm hoping that I do enjoy this book more the second time around without sort of thinking about the movie. The next book that I would like to give a reread is Earthbound by April M. Pike. I think I remember kind of enjoying this book the first time. I don't think I loved it. I can't really remember, but that's the thing. I honestly can't remember, so that's why I need to give it a reread. The cover is absolutely gorgeous of this book. Really, really pretty. So I just need to sort of reread it and see if I can gain some sort of better thoughts on it, whether I want to keep the physical copy. But I've got the sequel to this book, so I need to reread this in order to read the sequel anyway, but I remember sort of, I think at least I gave this book 4 stars, so it would be good for me to give it a reread. The next book I would like to give a reread is Glow by Amy Kathleen Ryan. This book again was another one of the first books I read on BookTube, so it's been a fair few years, so I would like to give this a reread. I don't really remember too much about it. I just remember it being a sci-fi novel, but I really enjoyed it the first time round. I think I actually gave it like 5 out of 5 Kit Kats the first time round, but it's been so many years later I don't really remember it, so I just want to give it a reread and then I can decide whether I can keep this book as a physical. The next book that I would like to reread is Anti-Goddess by Kendare Blake, and this is the first book that's in another series, and I think I gave this 4 out of 5 Kit Kats the first time I read it. I think I did. I remember Buddy reading this along with Keisha, and I can't remember what Keisha gave it to, but you know, it's got angels in it, and I normally love my angel books, but I honestly cannot remember anything about this book, and I think I've got the sequel to it, so I need to get this reread in order to read the sequel. This next book, I just want to give it a reread in order to decide if I want to keep this as a physical book. But this is My Name is Rapunzel by Casey Hilton. Now Casey Hilton, she's on BookTube. I haven't seen her do any sort of videos in a while, so I don't really know what she's been up to lately actually. But she did sign this, but she sent this like physical copy to me because I was on her street team of reading this book before it was actually published, and I actually really enjoyed the ebook of it, and that's why she sent me the physical. So I want to give it a reread and see if I want to keep it. But this is a retelling of Rapunzel, hence My Name is Rapunzel, and it's sort of like the real story behind Rapunzel. So it's been a while since I've read this, so I need to get this reread. And the final book that is on my to be reread because I'm unsure if I want to keep pile is Under the Never Sky by Veronica Rossi. This is the first book that is in this trilogy, and I own the other 2 books as well, but I honestly can't remember anything that went on with this, and I struggled to sort of get in this book the first time reading it, but it's been a fair few years since then, and I've read loads of books since then, literally like probably over 200 books since then, so I've probably adapted in everything, and you know, learnt to deal with books different ways, and sometimes when reading books a second time we understand it a bit better. So this, you know, I'm hoping that I enjoy it more the second time round. So that is the first set of books, and the second pile is a lot longer, but these are books that I really loved the first time around. I just want to read again, and the first of which is Wake by Amanda Hocking. This is the first book that is in this series. I want to reread this. I absolutely love this book. It's about mermaids. Really loved it, and I have only read the first book, and so I need to carry on with this. So I want to reread the first book, and then I want to carry on with the series again because this book was so good, and I don't know why I didn't carry on. It just seems a bit bizarre now thinking about it, but I loved and adored this book, and I can't wait to reread it. The next book that I would love to reread is The Duff by Cody Keplinger. I've only read this once, and I really honestly loved this book. Really like the movie, to be honest too. It's quite quirky in its own different way, quite different to the book in so many different ways. Like by far this book is just way different to the movie, but I enjoy them in their own different ways. I don't really like consider them as the same. Like the storyline is basically there, but different things are in both, but I would just love to reread this. It was a contemporary I really enjoyed when I read it, and I totally want to read it again soon. The next book that I would love to reread is Girl Online by Zoe Sugg. Yes, okay, this has gotten a lot of controversy because she didn't actually fully write it, you know, she got a bit of help, but I love this book. I absolutely loved it, and when I read it, it bursted my love for blogging and vlogging, and I really adored it. It was so simple yet so like powerful at the same time, and that's why I really loved it. I want to give this book a reread, and then I can read the sequel, and oh, I loved it so much. Honestly loved it so much, so I can't wait to give this book another reread soon. The next book that I would love to reread is Teardrop by Lauren Kate. This book has received a lot of hit and miss with. Some people love it, some people don't, some people find it okay, some people find it problematic. I was one of those people that love it. Now, first of all, the cover is absolutely gorgeous. This is the cover. And it's so beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And I was lucky enough to receive like the manuscript of this before it came out, and I absolutely fell in love with it. And then the publishers very kindly sent me like the finished copy, and I would love to reread this book pretty soon so that I could read the sequel. Oh, this cover is so gorgeous. It's so gorgeous. But it's Lauren Kate, and I'm currently rereading like Lauren Kate's other series, so you know, I could go on to this pretty damn soon, but I loved it the first time round, and I just want to reread it so I can remember all the details the second time round. The next book that I would love to reread is Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell. I actually want to reread this along with Keisha because she mentioned that she wanted to reread it. I gave it 4 out of 5 Kit Kats the first time. I can't remember. I think Keisha gave it 4 Kit Kats too, but we both liked it for like different reasons, sort of thing. Like she liked the fan fiction that was in it, and I like the storyline more. So yeah, it was interesting that we had differences in this, but I would like to give it a reread to see if I think differently. I still haven't read Carry On, which is the fan fiction story that is in this book. So I would like to give this a reread to see what I think about it. So hopefully pretty soon me and Keisha are going to be rereading this. The next book that is on my list is Across the Universe by Beth Revis. I originally actually had the paperback of this, but I managed to get the beautiful hardback because I think I got the hardback of the sequel and the hardback of the third book. So I would like to reread this so that I can continue on with this, because I haven't long had the second and the third book. I got them on a Books for Trade. I think I got them this year. So that's why I put this on my reread pile so that I can continue on with this. I loved this book the first time round. It is a science fiction sort of series. So I would definitely love to get this book reread and continue on with it. The next book that is on my reread list is The Murder Complex by Lindsay Cummings, and she is the real great best friend of Sasha from Book Utopia, and they're writing a book together that is coming out in January. And so this is Lindsay Cummings. I think this was like her first book, so this was her debut book, and I was very excited about this book even before it was released. I was really good friends with Lindsay like before, you know, like the whole BookTube thing and everything, and so I have supported her even before then, and I loved this book so much. I loved it, and I've got the sequel to it. And this book was so good. I really enjoyed it, so I want to give it a reread so I can continue on with the series. And oh yes, I just remember really enjoying it. It's a dystopian sort of novel as well, but it was really good. The next book that I would love to reread is Illumini by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. This is my ARC copy, so I might actually trade off my ARC copy for a finished copy if someone's interested on Books for Trade. So if anybody is actually interested in the ARC copy of this in exchange for the finished copy, then yes, please give me a shout. But I loved this book the first time around, really loved it, so I am super excited to give it a reread. And Keisha told me to actually listen to the audiobook, so I might listen to the audiobook the second time around and see how much I enjoy it. The next couple of books are both together, and I would love to reread Unremembered and Unforgotten, both by Jessica Brody. These were the first couple of books, especially this book, the first book that I ever raved about on BookTube. I don't stop talking about it, and I haven't spoken about it in a while, so please guys, pick this series up, it's so good. If you like mysterious sort of interesting books with a little bit of sci-fi in, this girl just like wakes up and knows absolutely nothing about herself or anything, and one day this guy is just like, you know, this has happened and I'm this person. She's just like, who the F are you, sort of thing. Like, if you like those sort of books, then this is really good. I don't think a lot of people talk about this book, like, and I think it deserves to be talked about more. But I want to reread both of these so that I can read the final book. I've been holding off of reading it for so long because I'm scared, because it's the last book that's in the trilogy. So I want to reread these and then I can finally read the final book. And I have this terrible habit of reading the first and second books in the trilogy and not reading the third and final. I am exactly the same with like many other trilogies as well, like the Divergent trilogy. I haven't even read Allegiant because I got spoiled on what happened anyway, but I know it needs to be done, but it's just a very bad habit. The next book that I would love to reread is Wicked by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This one I really want to reread soon because the third book comes out this month and I haven't read the second book yet, and I would like to read the second book. So I want to reread this pretty soon so that I can read the second book and then go on to the third. I've already pre-ordered the third because it's Jennifer Armentrout. I honestly pre-order every one of her books. So yes, I would like to give this book read. I can't wait. I love this book the first time. This is like her new adult paranormal sort of book, so that's why I really loved it. And it's the final book in the trilogy. It's coming out this month, so hi guys, I need to reread this. The next book that I would love to reread is Red Queen by Victoria Aveyard. I loved this book the first time round. I would love to reread it again so that I can go on to the sequel and carry on with it. I just don't remember some sort of details because it is a sort of like a fantasy, and with fantasy sometimes I struggle, and this one I loved it, but I just want to remember everything that went on before going on again. I don't really want to jump into the second book and be like, hang on a minute, I don't remember that sort of thing. So I'd rather go into the next book with a fresh mind, as it was like, I think a year or more ago since I read this, so I would like to reread it to carry on with the series. This next book I would love to reread because it is one of my all-time favourite books, and that is All the Bright Places by Jennifer Niven. I recommend this standalone book all the time in any sort of recommendations video, in any sort of tag recommendation question, and it's just so good. It touches on anxiety and depression so well. It's a beautiful story. This is one of the only books that has ever broke me and made me cry. I rarely ever cry at books. The Fault in Our Stars made me cry. This book made me cry. I think I cried even more at this than The Fault in Our Stars, to be honest. I got so hooked in. I loved both the characters. I connected with them so well, and I completely fell in love with this story. So it's been a while since I've read this because I first read this before it was actually released. So I would like to give this a reread pretty soon. This next book that I would love to reread is White Hot Kiss by Jennifer Armentrout. This is the first book that is in the Dark Elements series, and I do have the second book, like many other of these, and I just don't really remember a lot of the details. So once I start reading it, I'll be like, oh yeah, I remember that happened. But I just want to give it a reread so that I can go into the other books. And I think what I'm going to do exactly what I did with like a couple of the Throne of Glass books in the series. I'm going to write bullet points of spoilers that happened and stick it in the front of the book, so it will save me rereading it sometimes when I just want to remember the details. So I want to reread this pretty soon. It's a new adult novel, a new adult paranormal novel, and it was so good when I first read it. I can't wait to reread it again. And the last book that is on my reread list is Torment by Lauren Kate, and this is the second book that is in the Fallen series. Now I'm currently rereading Fallen, although by the time this video is up I might have actually finished rereading it. But this is next on the list because I would like to reread the second book so that I can continue on with the series. Continue on and float around and get it finished. So yeah, like I say, I've got this really dirty habit of reading the first or the second books in the series and then just not continuing on. It's a really bad habit that I need to stop. So this is a really long video, so I'm sorry about that, guys. But those are all the books so far that I've looked out of my bookshelf right here of books that I would like to reread within like the next year. This would be good if I could just slot these books within like the next upcoming months, especially if they're like books that I have loved before and I'm in a sort of reading slump, then they will be perfect as a little filler. But yeah, I'm really excited to give these books a reread. If you guys have read any of these books, do let me know down below in the comments what you thought about them, or if you haven't read them as well. But I have done some book reviews on these books. I've done some video reviews on them, and blog reviews and so on and so forth. So a few of them I have done some on, and I think I need to do some on that I haven't done, because it's my aim to try and review every book that I read. So yes, that's the end of this video. Thank you very much for watching it. Keep smiling, keep reading, and be happy, and I'll see all of you wonderful awesome people in my next video. Bye!